It was past midnight when James Carter heard the knock. At first, he thought it was the wind, rattling the thin metal gate outside his rented flat. But then it came again, firmer, slower, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. His heart skipped. No one should be at his door at this hour. Not in this neighborhood. Not on this night. James hesitated, holding his breath in the dimly lit sitting room, as though even the sound of breathing could betray him. He lived alone. He had no visitors coming. And yet, whoever stood outside his door wasn't leaving. James Carter, a 28-year-old accountant in Nairobi, wasn't the kind of man who attracted trouble. His life was routine, painfully ordinary. Wake up at 6, squeeze into the crowded matatu to work, shuffle through spreadsheets in the office, then return home to leftovers and silence. But tonight felt different from the start. Earlier in the evening, the power had gone out across the estate. Darkness swallowed the narrow streets, and most neighbors had gone to bed early. James had been reading on his phone, waiting for sleep, when the first knock shattered the silence. His mind raced. Should he open the door? What if it was a thief? Or worse? He tiptoed to the window, pulling the curtain just slightly. From the weak glow of the moon, he could make out a shadow standing still by the gate. Tall. Motionless. As though waiting, only for him. James swallowed hard. His hand hovered over the bolt on the door. What if opening it changed everything about his life? The knocking stopped. For a moment, James thought whoever it was had gone. Relief washed over him, until his phone buzzed on the table. No caller ID. Just one message. James, open the door. We don't have much time. His blood froze. How did this person know his name? Hands trembling, he picked up the phone, trying to call back, but the line wouldn't go through. A cold sweat spread across his back. He remembered the stories whispered in Nairobi streets, of people who opened their doors at night and were never seen again. But curiosity burned deeper than fear. Slowly, James slid the bolt open. The hinges groaned as the door cracked. There he was. A man in a black coat, eyes sharp and unblinking, standing under the faint glow of the moon. His face was unfamiliar, but his presence, heavy, commanding. James, the man said, voice low and urgent. If you want to stay alive, don't ask questions. Just come with me. James froze in the doorway, torn between sense and impulse. Every logical bone in his body screamed, close the door. Lock it. Call the police. But another voice, softer, insistent, whispered, what if this is the moment your life changes forever? The stranger glanced over his shoulder nervously, as though someone was following him. Then he looked James in the eye. You've been marked, he said. And if we stay here, they'll find us both. James's breath caught in his throat. Marked? By who? For what? The street, usually alive with dogs barking and distant music, was eerily silent. Not a sound, not a soul. His phone buzzed again. Another message. Don't trust him. James's eyes widened. The stranger saw it, and his jaw tightened. You have to choose now, the man said, stepping closer. Stay here, and you won't live to see sunrise. Come with me, and maybe, just maybe, you'll survive. James's hand tightened on the doorknob. His heart thundered. What if this knock was never meant for him? What if opening the door had just invited something he couldn't escape? James followed the stranger out into the night, the metallic click of the gate sounding louder than it should have. The neighborhood was strangely still. No barking dogs, no flickering TV lights in windows, not even the hum of generators people usually ran during blackouts. It felt as if the entire street had been emptied. The stranger walked quickly, his long black coat swaying with each step. James trailed behind, his mind racing. Every few seconds, he glanced at his phone, still in his hand, still buzzing with those unsettling anonymous messages. Another text flashed across the screen, "You've made a mistake." James's throat tightened. He stopped walking. The man turned sharply. "Don't fall behind. They're already closer than you think." "Who's closer?" James demanded, his voice trembling. "What do you mean they?" The man's jaw clenched. "If I explain now, you won't believe me. Just keep moving." James hesitated, torn between turning back to the safety of his locked door and pressing forward into the unknown. But then, from somewhere in the shadows came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. Not theirs. Not human-like. James's stomach dropped. They turned down a narrow dirt path behind the estate, one James had never taken before. The air grew colder, heavier. He couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were following them. The stranger finally spoke again, his voice lower this time. "You've been on their list for weeks, James. I've been trying to reach you before they did." James blinked. "Whose list? What are you talking about?" "They choose people. Ordinary people. People who won't be missed immediately. Then they test how much fear a soul can hold before it breaks." James felt his skin crawl. He almost laughed, but the gravity in the man's voice crushed any sense of disbelief. Another message buzzed on his phone. "Turn back. He's lying." James's hands shook so badly he almost dropped it. He shoved the phone into his pocket, unable to read more. The stranger stopped suddenly. They were standing in front of an abandoned warehouse, its corrugated walls rusted, its windows broken. James's breath hitched. "Why here?" he whispered. The man's eyes scanned the shadows. "Because this is the only place we can hide. For now." James's heart pounded so loudly he thought it might give them away. Inside the warehouse, the smell of damp metal and dust filled James's nostrils. Broken crates lay scattered, and the moonlight streamed through holes in the roof, painting sharp silver lines on the ground. The man locked the door behind them. James's chest tightened. He wasn't sure whether he was safer in here, or more trapped. The stranger pulled out an old, leather-bound notebook from inside his coat and handed it to James. The cover was scratched, the edges worn. "These are the names," he said grimly. James hesitated, then opened it. Page after page, line after line, handwritten names. Hundreds of them. He flipped faster, his fingers shaking. Then he froze. There it was. His name. James Carter. Written in bold, dark ink. His knees nearly buckled. "Who wrote this?" he whispered. The man's expression was unreadable. "The same people who are hunting us. And if your name is in here." He looked James in the eye. "It means your time is already running out." James staggered back, the notebook falling from his hands. He wanted to scream, to run, to wake up and find this was all a nightmare. But then his phone buzzed again. This time, just 3 words appeared on the screen. "Don't trust him." The man's voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "It means they've already chosen you. Once a name enters this book, the person's life begins to unravel, piece by piece." James's chest tightened. Chosen for what? The man looked at him with tired eyes, the kind that carried too many secrets. "For fear. For the game." James's skin prickled. "The game?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he flipped further through the pages. James leaned in. Every single line carried a name, and next to each, a small, chilling note written in neat cursive. Missing, 2019. Vanished, 2021. Last seen, March 2023. James stumbled back, his heart hammering against his ribs. These weren't just names. They were records of people who had disappeared. The stranger's voice hardened. "We don't have much time. If you trust me, stay close. If you don't." He glanced toward the dark corner where the noise had come from. You may not live long enough to regret it. James's phone buzzed again. His trembling hands pulled it out. Another message. Leave. Now. He works for them. James's head spun. He looked at the stranger. Then at the shadow. Then back at the glowing words on his phone. His every nerve screamed at him that whatever choice he made next would change everything. The warehouse seemed to breathe, its hollow walls echoing every drip of water, every crunch of James's footsteps on the debris. He couldn't tell if the pounding in his ears was his own heartbeat or something else moving closer. Who's there? James called out, his voice cracking despite his attempt to sound firm. The only reply was silence. Silence so thick it felt alive. The stranger's hand moved under his coat. For a split second, James thought he was reaching for a weapon. His muscles tensed, ready to run. But then the man pulled out nothing more than a small flashlight. He clicked it on, and a narrow beam of light cut through the darkness. The beam landed on the corner of the warehouse, and James's stomach dropped. Scratched into the rusted metal wall were dozens of markings. Not random graffiti. Not symbols he could easily understand. But words. Names. Dozens of them, etched deep with something sharp as though clawed in desperation. And there, among them, in fresh lines that looked as though they had been carved only hours ago, was his name again, James Carter. James staggered back, bile rising in his throat. This isn't real. This can't be real. The stranger's face darkened. They've already been here. They're closer than I thought. The air grew heavier, pressing down on James like invisible hands. He could swear he heard faint whispers, too low to make sense of, but definitely there. The whispers rose and fell, like a crowd waiting for something. Then came the sound. Tap, tap, tap. Not footsteps this time, but something sharp scraping slowly against the concrete floor. Closer. Louder. Deliberate. James's phone vibrated violently in his pocket. He yanked it out with shaking hands. The screen lit up with a new message. Don't look behind you. Cold sweat dripped down his temples. His whole body screamed not to obey, not to turn, but curiosity clawed at him. His breathing quickened. His fingers gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. Slowly, painfully slowly, James turned his head. The flashlight flickered once, then steadied again. And in that faint glow, just beyond the reach of the light, James saw it, a shape, tall and unnatural, watching from the shadows. Its outline didn't make sense, as if the body was stretched in places it shouldn't be. Its face, hidden. The whispers grew louder. James stumbled back, his legs weak. What is that? The stranger stepped in front of him, shielding him with his own body. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. They found us. The figure in the dark tilted its head, as though it had been waiting for this moment. And James realized, with bone-deep certainty, that whatever it was, it had been waiting for him all along. James's entire body went cold as the figure stepped closer. The air inside the warehouse thickened, heavy like smoke, though there was no fire. Every whisper in the shadows rose and fell, as if 100 invisible mouths were murmuring his name. Its presence pressed down on James's chest, crushing the air from his lungs. He staggered back, clutching his throat. I can't breathe. The stranger grabbed his shoulders. Don't look at it, James. Whatever you do, don't meet its eyes. But it was too late. For a split second, James's gaze locked with the shadow's face. He saw nothing and everything at once, an abyss where eyes should be, and yet a reflection of himself staring back. His own face, twisted, broken, screaming. James collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His chest burned like fire. Images flashed in his mind, childhood fears, long-buried mistakes, moments of shame he thought no one knew. The thing was inside him, rifling through his memories like pages in a book. The stranger shouted something, but James couldn't hear. His ears rang with the sound of his own voice crying in his head. Then, just as suddenly, the figure pulled back. The pressure lifted. James fell forward onto the dusty floor, coughing, trembling, tears streaming down his face. The shadow retreated, but it didn't vanish. It lingered at the edge of the light, waiting. Watching. The stranger knelt beside him, his face grim. Now you understand. It doesn't just kill you, James. It breaks you first. That's what they want, to see how much you can take before you collapse. James wiped his face with shaking hands, trying to steady his breathing. His voice cracked. Why me? Why my name in that book? The stranger's jaw tightened. Because you've been marked. And once the book has your name, there's no going back. The warehouse walls seemed to close in, every shadow alive with menace. James pushed himself up, swaying on unsteady legs. His whole body trembled, not just from fear, but from something deeper, the feeling that he wasn't entirely himself anymore. The whispers hadn't stopped. They had moved, inside his head. The stranger grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back door. We can't stay here. Once it finds you, it doesn't stop. James resisted, his voice breaking. But where do we go? There's nowhere safe. It already knows me, it knows everything. The stranger's eyes flashed with something between pity and determination. There is one place. But it won't be easy to reach. Before James could press further, the scraping sound came again. Louder this time. Faster. The shadow was moving toward them. The stranger yanked the back door open. Cold night air rushed in. They stumbled into the alley behind the warehouse, their footsteps echoing against the cracked pavement. James glanced back once, and instantly wished he hadn't. The shadow was coming through the doorway. Its form bent and twisted, forcing itself through the narrow frame, limbs contorting unnaturally as it slid out into the open night. James's chest tightened. His legs screamed to run, but his mind was frozen with terror. The stranger shoved him forward. Don't stop. Don't look back again. If you do, it'll catch you. They sprinted through the silent streets of Nairobi. The city that never truly slept was dead quiet, as if every soul had vanished. Street lamps flickered weakly, casting distorted shadows that made James stumble in panic. Behind them, the sound grew louder, the scrape, scrape, scrape of something dragging against the ground as it followed. James gasped for breath, his lungs burning. His phone buzzed again. Against every instinct, he glanced at it mid-run. Run to the river. It can't cross water. His eyes widened. He nearly tripped. The river, he shouted. It says we should head for the river. The stranger glared at him, still pulling him along. Don't listen to those messages. You don't know who's sending them. James's heart pounded. His mind spun. Who was he supposed to trust, the stranger who had dragged him into this nightmare, or the unseen voice guiding him through the phone? Another buzz. If you trust him, you die. The scraping sound was closer now. The thing was gaining on them. The stranger pulled James down another alley, heading away from where James knew the river flowed. James dug his heels into the ground, refusing to move further. I'm not going that way. If what's on my phone is right. The stranger's face twisted with frustration. You'll get us both killed. And in that moment, with the shadow bearing down on them, the night air vibrating with its whispers, James Carter realized he had only seconds to decide whose path to follow. The night air hit James like ice as he and the stranger burst through the back door of the warehouse. The thing was spilling out of the warehouse door, forcing its distorted frame into the open air. It wasn't walking, it was sliding, bending, folding its limbs in impossible ways to keep pace. And worse, its head was tilted toward James the entire time, like it could see nothing and no one else. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He fumbled it out mid-run. The screen lit with another message. Don't follow him. Go to the river. Only water can hold it back. James almost stumbled. His mind spun. The stranger yanked him hard to the left, away from the river's direction. This way, he shouted. If you listen to those messages, you'll die. James's chest heaved, panic clawing at him. His voice cracked. Then who do I believe? You, or the phone? The stranger's jaw clenched. You believe the one standing beside you, not some faceless ghost. But the scraping was louder now. Closer. James could hear the whispers again, hundreds of voices overlapping, chanting his name, James Carter. James Carter. His legs weakened, his vision blurred. The sound wasn't just outside, it was in his skull. He staggered, nearly falling. The stranger hauled him upright. Don't let it in, James. Fight it. They rounded a corner. For a heartbeat, James thought they had lost it. But then the lamplight above them flickered, once, twice, and the shadow glided into view, emerging from the darkness of the alley. It was faster now. James screamed. The stranger pulled something metallic from his coat, a flare gun. He aimed, fired. A ball of harsh red light erupted, smashing against the ground between them and the shadow. The street bathed in blood-red glow. The creature recoiled, retreating slightly into the dark, its whispers rising to a furious shriek. The stranger grabbed James's face, forcing him to look at him. Listen to me, this won't hold it forever. You need to choose. Follow me, and I'll lead you to safety. Go your own way, and you'll never make it. James's phone buzzed again. His hand shook as he looked. He's lying. He's one of them. The flare fizzled out. The street fell back into shadow. The creature leaned forward again, stretching toward them. James's chest heaved, his hand clutching his phone in a death grip. Two choices. Two paths. Both filled with danger. And now he knew, whichever decision he made, there was no turning back. James stopped running. His feet planted on the cracked pavement, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his temple. He looked at the stranger, eyes sharp, voice commanding, then at the glowing screen in his hand, the words etched like a warning from another world. The stranger's voice cut the air. James, don't think. Just move. James shook his head violently. No. I'm done being dragged around. I want the truth. The scraping echoed, louder now, as if the shadow was feeding on his hesitation. The stranger's face hardened. If you don't trust me, then you've already chosen death. James's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer. Run to the river. Jump if you must. It will hurt, but you'll live. If you stay with him, you won't. James's stomach twisted. The river, it wasn't far. He remembered passing it many times. Could it really be that simple? The stranger's eyes darted to the phone. Stop reading that. It's them. It's their trap. James's head spun. His ears rang with the voices, not just whispers anymore, but laughter, screams, cries, all swirling inside his skull. Then something shifted. A memory, buried deep. James was a child again, standing by the river's edge with his late father. His father's voice. Water remembers, James. It protects. Always trust the river. James's throat tightened. Could the phone be right? Could the river be the only way? The stranger stepped closer, his grip tightening on James's arm. Look at me. Do you want to live? Then follow me. But James's eyes burned with something new, defiance. He yanked his arm free. I'm going to the river. The stranger's face darkened. For the first time, James saw fear flicker in his eyes. And that's when James knew, he had made the right choice. The moment James turned toward the river's direction, the shadow shrieked. A sound so piercing it rattled windows and sent shivers through the air. It lunged, its limbs stretching, dragging itself faster, hungrier. James bolted. His legs pumped with a desperation he didn't know he had. Every corner, every alley, the whispers grew louder, the scraping closer. Behind him, the stranger shouted. "James, stop. You don't know what you're doing." But James didn't stop. The memory of his father's words echoed in his mind, guiding him like a compass. Street after street blurred. His lungs burned, his vision blurred. He could hear the shadow closing in, the sound of concrete cracking under its unnatural weight. His phone buzzed again. One final message. Don't look back. Not until the river. Tears stung his eyes as he sprinted. Every instinct screamed to glance behind, but he forced himself forward. Then, at last, the faint shimmer of moonlight on water. The Nairobi River stretched before him, dark and wide, its current twisting like a living thing. He stumbled to the edge, chest heaving. The shadow was almost on him. The whispers were deafening now, clawing at his mind. Without thinking, without hesitation, James leapt. Cold water swallowed him whole. The river was ice. It seized his body, dragged him under, spun him through its dark currents. He thrashed, lungs screaming for air. Panic flared, until he felt it. The whispers stopped. The shadow, which had followed so relentlessly, hovered at the river's edge, its form writhing, twisting, but unable to cross. It howled, a sound that split the night, shaking the city itself, but it did not enter the water. James kicked upward, breaking the surface, gasping for air. His chest heaved, but the suffocating grip on his mind was gone. For the first time all night, the voices were silent. He swam hard, pulling himself to the opposite bank, collapsing in the mud. His whole body shook. Every breath was fire. But he was alive. From the other side, he saw it. The shadow stood at the river's edge, its form flickering, shrinking. And behind it, the stranger. Watching. Their eyes locked across the water. The stranger's face was unreadable, not relief, not anger, something else. Something hidden. Then, to James's horror, the stranger raised the notebook. The same leather-bound book filled with names. He opened it, and with deliberate care, he tore a page. James could see the name written on it, James Carter. The stranger let the page fall into the water. The river swallowed it instantly. And in that moment, James realized, his story wasn't over. It was only beginning. James lay on the muddy bank, shivering, water dripping from his clothes. Across the river, the shadow twisted in rage but could not cross. And beside it stood the stranger, holding the leather notebook. James's voice cracked. "Who are you? Why are you doing this to me?" The stranger didn't shout. His voice carried easily across the water. "You survived. Few do." He raised the book. "This notebook is not mine. It belongs to them. But I am the one who delivers the names." James's heart nearly stopped. "You choose people." The stranger looked down, shame flickering across his face. "I was once chosen too. But they gave me a choice, bring others, or be taken myself. And so, I deliver names. I write them in the book." James's stomach churned. His knees weakened. "You wrote my name." The stranger's voice cracked. "Yes. I'm sorry. But tonight, you did not die. That means the book will demand another instead." The shadow hissed, as if confirming his words. James's rage boiled. His voice shook, but his words were clear. "You traded lives to save your own. How many people have you given to that thing?" The stranger's face twisted with pain. "Too many. And every night I hear them scream. But I had no choice. There is always a choice, James said. The shadow shrieked, the air around it vibrating. James's phone buzzed again. With trembling hands, he pulled it out. One final message. If he writes another name, you live. If he stops, both of you die. James's chest rose and fell. His blood turned cold. This was the truth. The book did not forgive. Someone's name had to be written. The stranger held the pen, his hand shaking. His eyes locked on James. Tell me a name, and I will spare you. Anyone. Just say it. James's heart thundered. The weight of the world pressed on him. He thought of his family, his friends, strangers who had nothing to do with this. Could he doom another life to save his own? The silence stretched, broken only by the roar of the river. James shook his head. No. I will not become like you. The shadow screeched, enraged by his refusal. The notebook flung open on its own, pages tearing in the wind. The air grew darker, heavier. The stranger shouted, "Then you choose death." He pointed at James, and the shadow lunged across the river, its body stretching unnaturally, clawing toward him. James stumbled back, slipping in the mud. His lungs screamed, his body exhausted, but deep inside a spark of defiance burned. He grabbed a broken branch from the ground, holding it like a weapon, though he knew it was useless. The shadow's claws slashed at the water's edge, spraying droplets across him. James screamed, but the river itself seemed to fight back. Waves rose higher, crashing against the creature, forcing it back. The stranger's voice echoed, "You cannot kill it, James. It will never stop." James's eyes burned with fury. "Then I'll make sure it stops with me." He plunged back into the river, dragging the notebook from where it had fallen. Water splashed violently as he ripped page after page, throwing them into the current. Each page dissolved instantly, names vanishing into the deep. The shadow shrieked louder, thrashing wildly, weakening with each name lost. The stranger screamed from the bank. "No. You'll doom us all. Better doom than endless fear." James shouted. The river surged like it was alive, pulling James deeper. The notebook in his hands grew lighter, emptier. With every page he tore, the shadow faded, its body unraveling like smoke in the wind. But James could feel it, the cost. His body grew weaker. His chest burned. His mind blurred. The stranger screamed from the shore, torn between anger and despair. "Stop. If the book is destroyed, your life will go with it." James's grip tightened on the last page. His own name stared back at him, James Carter. Tears blurred his eyes. He thought of his father, of his quiet life, of the people he might save if this ended now. His voice was a whisper, carried by the river, "If this is the price, then so be it." He plunged the final page beneath the water. The shadow screamed, a scream so loud it shook the earth, then tore apart into nothingness. The air cleared. The whispers stopped. The night was still again. James floated to the surface, the ruined book sinking beneath him. His chest heaved one last time as he whispered, "Never open the door, at midnight." And then the river closed over him. When dawn broke, the city awoke as if nothing had happened. Cars honked. Children played. Life moved on. But by the riverbank, the stranger sat alone, the book gone, the shadow destroyed. And James Carter, the man who had opened the door, was never seen again. Yet, in the silence of the morning, the wind carried a message. A warning. Never open the door at midnight. Because what waits outside may not be a friend, nor a neighbor, but something that will cost you more than you can bear. Folklore is not just story, it is survival. And sometimes, survival depends on the choices we make in the quietest, darkest hours of the night. So if you ever hear a knock at midnight, remember James Carter. Remember his sacrifice. And remember this. Some doors are not meant to be opened. Thank you family for watching Crystal Chronicles. See you next video.